When a man cheat, a woman is more likely to try to make the relationship work because society has conditioned women to believe to fight for their family. When a man cheat, men are taught to replace their injuries, meaning that
Don't smirk, Aaron.
if you cheat on a man,
I'm
more
not
than
smirking.
likely he's just going to replace you because he cannot deal with the consequences of being cheated on and the emotional labor that it requires to actually rebuild the relationship. Men tend to start to visualize things, right? Men tend to start feeling personally attacked in ways that they cannot comprehend. So it's a lot easier to evade those emotions and abandon it and just replace their partner thinking that's going to take it away. But in reality, that PTSD will last up to 5 years. So even though you might think it's not affecting you, but brother, it is. No matter who you're with, their cell phone ring, you're triggered.
Brother, it is.
They have not texted, you're triggered. They're dressed a certain way to go out without you, you are triggered, right? So men and women deal with infidelity differently based on social conditioning. And now, if we could even take it to another route, is that women have the most to lose through a divorce. So therefore,
Wait. Say that again because this comes up all the time.
Aaron said, not
I know.
Aaron Campbell.
Where
know.
men are saying I see this every day in the comments. The reason why men are no longer seeking to get married in droves is because they believe that they have so much more to lose.
it's not true.
Am I wrong? You see this?
I mean, not in the comments, but I've definitely.
It's a general matter.
Yeah, as a general matter.
Rico?
Any man with money, yes, he does. I don't care what clinical scientist has to say about that.
Okay, but that's assuming
we
that
know
it's.
No, we know this.
Maybe
Maybe if we take all men in general, because not again, 85% of this country does not make $100,000 a year, so I can understand. But if we taking people who make money, only 5% of women make over six figures.
But
That's
you're-
such a small
but that's
percentage
assuming
of
the
people,
type
though.
of relationship
I'm
where a
just
man makes
talking
like
to my
a
bracket.
significantly amount more than a
I'm talking to
woman.
my bracket.
and we're
not all
also only
relationships.
talking about money. There's way more to lose than just
What about
money.
the custody?
Business.
So
The kids.
when a man or woman get divorced, in most cases, the women tend to have a higher rate of custody of the children, right?
Which is unfortunate.
So that means that at any time she wants to go out, have some alone time, or go on vacation, and etc., she got to figure out what babysitting looks like. It's very, very easy for the partner that doesn't have the majority of the custody to just say, "Yo, I can make it today."
bullshit.
Right? That happens. Hold on. There's more. There's more.
He's a new dad.
I'm a real dad,
I'm a
not
new
a new
dad,
dad.
Oh.
Yeah, 2 kids, two under 2. Do not recommend.
Oh wow.
Right? And also again, like having the children primarily with you requires that you are being more thoughtful about your schedule, where you could go to, and all of the responsibilities that requires. Secondly, your social circle and your support network tend to shame single moms. We've seen it all over social media. It's their main attack. You're a single mom, so something is wrong with you. Third, finances, your favorite subject. Men are more likely to men make on average 6 times more money than women. So that means this divorced woman has less income and more responsibilities when you tie in with the children. So on average, women have a lot more to lose socially, financially, and in terms of responsibility when it comes to males. Hence why they try very hard to maintain their relationship. On average, out of all of the infidelity couples that I have served, 99% of the first phone calls and consultation calls are initiated by women.
I kind of want to go back to dealing with the infidelity.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned that men typically have a harder time when they're on the receiving end
Yes.
because they're not good with their words. They don't know how to put their feelings into words, do the work X, Y, and Z, whatever. What outside of the words and explaining how they're feeling, what is the hardest thing? Oh, sorry. What is like the hardest thing that you see men trying to get over the hump, and like what's the hardest thing for women trying to get over the hump?
Oh, Excellent question. So I would say that the one of the biggest hurdle that men are having and are trying to work through is having the vocabulary to express themselves, right? Because a lot of 96% of the time, the way you start a conversation is exactly how it's going to end. So there's a difference between saying you're selfish versus, hey babe, lately I've been feeling neglected and unwanted. You're saying the same thing, but you need the right words and the feeling words because that's what your partner can identify. So if I'm saying you never and you always, that's me attacking you, and you're automatically going to defend yourself. So what I have found is that a lot of men are learning the vocabulary and as well as the skill and the science needed to properly express themselves. Now, in return, there is a lot of work also being done on their female partners to learn how to listen, right? But it's easier to listen when emotional words and feelings are being used in personal attacks. It is not the receiver's responsibility to try to decipher what you're trying to say. Me saying you're selfish and I'm doing it from a space of love and I'm criticizing you and you're just supposed to not take it personal, that's impossible. We really need to stop utilizing these concepts that are not realistic and start to look at human nature and the impact of what we're doing, right? So it's very important to start a conversation properly to label your feelings so that your partner has a sense and a time to understand. But here's the step that everybody missed. If we're together, right, and I just told you that I've been feeling neglected, unwanted, and that's really hurting my confidence and security in the relationship, how should you respond to that?
I think my question would be, I think my question, no, Alan. I think my question would be like, what exactly am I doing to make you feel that way?
That's excellent, but not the right answer. So when somebody express themselves to you and have a complaint, the first thing you do is summarize. What I heard you say is that lately you have not been feeling wanted and desired in this relationship, and my lack of presence and words of affirmation have made you feel neglected. First step. Second step is I'm going to validate you to make sure that you feel understood prior to responding to you. I can understand what it feels like to be neglected and unwanted. I could I could clearly see how that is detrimental to the relationship and how that would affect the way that you view yourself and exactly the way that you feel in this relationship in terms of safety and security.
Mac, does that take some form of emotional maturity, some emotional
very beautiful.
intelligence?
So I have one more step.
I had
Never
a-
had
I have
that.
one more step.
I had a question
I
for
have
this.
one more step.
Like,
so
in real
can I
life.
do the
Never
final
had
step?
kind of-
Yeah, you
I
can
need different
definitely
women.
This ain't
do
TV,
Can I
Mac.
do the final step?
You can
mean,
definitely
it
do the
sounds-
final step.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the third step is: do you feel understood?
You asking me?
Yeah.
No, he's saying
After summarizing
After
and
those
I
2 steps.
validated, I'm
Uh-huh.
going to ask you: do you feel understood?
yeah.
Because
Oh.
I cannot respond until you felt heard. If not, I'm
Oh,
gonna
I see.
share my perspective. Then you go back and share your perspective. We're not gonna get nowhere because nobody's feeling understood, right?
Mm.
So being able to sit back and be disciplined enough to hear you, make sense of what you said, and validate that. And validation does not mean that you agree. Validation means I understand. Conflict does not apply to agreement because we can see the same thing, have the same experience, but have two different perspectives of it. So it's true for me because it's subjective to me. My feelings are true and they're right, and your feelings are true and they're right. So we're not debating who's right or wrong. So that's why the validation and the understanding is needed before we can even proceed to have a conversation. So those are the 3 steps that most people are not aware of. And those are the 3 steps that requires the most discipline. Like I'll be in session and the couple like, and they're turning away and they're moving their body. I'm like, how does the discomfort feel? Like, I just want to say what I want to say. I'm like, cool, sit with it. It's not time for that. Because that's what you need to create a masterful relationship. Not a mediocre, a masterful relationship.
Damn. I hope y'all gonna bullet point these on the.
I hope
on
so
the
too,
screen.
because
honestly,
there's a
I
lot
would have been
of
like, what you just
emotional
say?
regulation.
Yeah.
Matt, can you talk because that takes a lot of emotional regulation, not even just the emotional intelligence, maturity to get to that point, but to be able to get to the point where, because our natural reaction is to get into defense mode. It is a natural human
Once you're
reaction.
attacked.
Yeah, because when you're in a relationship, right, and your partner comes to you with something that is like, I'm dissatisfied or I'm angry or I'm upset,
But
right?
that's not critical.
But even
you
if it isn't
get
in the
defensive.
defense.
So how do you get your clients to get to the point where they can regulate some of those emotions?
Okay. So I think that we're having a misconception of what defensiveness looks like. If I attack you, you're gonna defend yourself. If I'm criticizing you, you're gonna defend yourself. So me saying you're selfish, you don't care about us, you don't care about this family, it's going to force you to defend yourself because that's the human reaction to being criticized. But if I'm saying I feel neglected and undesired, I'm not attacking you. So your need to defend yourself is not as high as the previous statements.
But still there though.
That's not necessarily
Some
true.
of it is there, but not to the same degree that you feel like you want to tell me that I'm wrong.
Wait, time out. Because every man is gonna tell you, listen, we've been in relationships that we've went about this way, and even it got to a point in my personal life, previous relationship, where I was like, yo, you know what? How I try to speak to this person, they don't receive it. I called my best friend. I said, yo, you already know what's going on. You know the situation. You might be able to say things differently than me, right? And we can say things differently with no attacking, no you words, no direct words. Everything is going to be on my end. And it still can be taken as an attack.
Don't tell me, show me. So make
so
a
what-
statement right now.
So what I'm saying is, wait,
No, I'm here.
Breathe.
I got you.
breathe. So let's say if I said I felt neglected, I felt you didn't, or I felt I was not being heard in the
Yes.
conversation that X, Y, and Z happened. And the first thing that always happens is, so you're saying,
Yeah,
so you're saying I don't understand you?
correct.
And then and what I'm trying to say is now with what Marie is saying is it's not emotional regulation on one side. It's emotional regulation on both sides. Because I can do all the practice that I want. I could use all the proper precautionary words and vocabulary. But if the person still deems it as an attack, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I say a lot of things and people say a lot of things and women hear only one part of it and then turn it to a whole nother thing. And always my first question is that what you got from what I said? And then we try to unpack the whole thing. So
Excellent.
the emotional regulation is not always on the guy's side.
Agreed.
And I think that that's one thing that we have to be understood, because in my notes that I've taken,
He was down there
I heard a
scribbling.
lot of things, and I'm like, whoa. So one of the key things that you said was feeling words, right?
Yes, sir.
And my issue with feeling words is usually, first of all, people know how I feel about the word feelings. You know, usually the feelings are derived, basically a social construct of what you should feel or how you should take certain things that are being said. It's all a social construct, which then becomes a one-sided thing. Because now if I say X, Y, and Z, whatever it may be, one woman can deem it this way, one woman can deem it that way, and now I'm literally the person trying to figure out, how do I speak to this person? And sometimes it doesn't matter how you speak to a person, whether or not, doesn't matter how you speak to a person, because whether or not, whichever avenue you go, they cannot receive it the way that it needs to be received.
Good point. Good point. And that's why it's called couples therapy, right? Not only am I coaching you how to identify your feelings and how to express yourself, but I'm also instructing your partner on the proper way to respond, right? Because that's not
Yeah,
natural to us,
Yeah.
right? It's not natural. It's not natural hearing how my behaviors impacted you. I automatically want to say, no, that's not true, because from my perspective, it's not true. But we're not speaking of agreement, right? So a lot of couples tend to get stuck on the validation because they're arguing agreement. So you're right. you can try your best and be the best communicator in the world, right? And label and do all of the steps that I said at first. But if your partner doesn't learn how to listen and how to respond, then it's not going to be effective. Hence the term couples therapy. All of the partners in the relationship must be present because the knowledge and the skill must be applied to everyone.
And I say that, and I'm so glad you said that. So I say all of this and bring in full circle because one of the things that was mentioned was that men don't, and it's not verbatim, but
Mhm.
men have the hardest time, being vocal with women. And I said this on a previous podcast. It's really not that. The real thing is we're vocal, but not in the way that they're able to digest it.
To decipher.
Yeah, yeah. Decipher, receive, and execute. And I feel like that's unfair because for a long time we weren't able to understand women. In fact, I don't even think men understand women right now, right? So nobody understands each other. So when it comes to being able to communicate and receive it, and what was the word that you used instead of receive?
Validate.
No, it's
Decipher.
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 Decipher what's actually being said per person. So a lot of things that we go ahead and we try to run with narratives because we talk about averages, and there's so many variables that play along with these averages, and the biggest variable that plays along is just the simple fact that it's actually a miscommunication and the inability to decipher on both sides. And maybe not me because I'm great. People should start seeking therapy before they become a couple.
So on average, couples wait 6 years too late before going to couples therapy, right? So I am used to seeing a lot of couples where divorce is the next step, and they're just checking
Trying to
this
save it.
box. Communication is a skill and it's a science. It's something that we need to learn and practice. I speak French fluently. I'm sure you don't, right?
Of course I do. Jean m'appelle Rico.
So if I spoke French to you and you don't understand what I said, that's not your fault.
Yeah.
That's on me because I'm the one that's communicating to you,
Got it.
right? So in a lot of times in couples, we're talking to our partner, but we're not speaking in a manner that they can understand and that they can decipher.
Yes.
That's why it's very important to identify exactly how you feel. So yes, us men, we are comfortable with three emotions: anger, happiness, and sadness, right? So when it's time to label how we feel, we struggle with that.
Do you know the three or the most feelings that women are comfortable with?
Women feel everything under the sun and have the ability to label that because that's how they've been conditioned in society. Us men were taught to just think of corporate America, right? As a man, you're supposed to go there, show no feelings, and just take over and climb up that ladder.
Right, man.
For women, it's very different. They are taught to be emotional, express themselves, and know how they are feeling. So that's why when men transition to being in a relationship, there goes the mismatch. Because outside of the house, I'm supposed to be alpha and just have tunnel vision, but at home, a different version of me is required, and I don't know how to make that switch because I've never experienced it yet.
Is that a survival thing?
Outside of the house, yes, but at home, I actually need comfort. I actually need softness. I actually need closeness. I actually need emotional intelligence and vulnerability. All of the things that don't lead to success outside of the house.
All right. Well, I mean, listen, they go hand in hand.
Wait, but
Well, come on, bro. I got a whole list. I've been waiting.
No.
I let Erin go all her pen pads and all that.
What are you talking about? But you guys been.
no, I actually want you to have an
I'm about to start
opportunity.
stonewalling for real. Listen, 30-year-old me, I have no tolerance.
Okay,
It's
10
his birthday.
minutes.
There is an
Aaron.
antidote to that.
Huh?
There's an antidote
I don't
to,
want the
to
antidote.
stonewalling.
Tell Amanda.
not- do
Amanda is a
I
victim
know, I
of
know.
stonewalling.
I know.
No, what's the antidote actually for stonewalling? That's something dope.
So stonewalling happens when your heart rate surpasses 100 beats a minute or 80 beats if you're very fit. So someone like you, if we were in session, I would put a pulse oximeter on your finger so I can control your heart rate throughout our conversations. The minute you pass 80, you can no longer listen. Your brain has released stress hormones and your heart rate is so elevated that you enter fight, flight, or freeze, right? In that space, you're saying things that you don't mean. You're just attacking. It's not going to work. So that's when I ask you to take a 20-minute break, go on opposite end of the home, engage in a self-care activity. Don't say anything under your breath. Go so far from each other. Even if you're yelling, you can't hear each other. To allow your body a time to process those hormones. And now you can re-enter a state where you can actually listen and communicate. So it's all about taking an effective break.
Time out.
I have a question, right? I said a lot of.
That's really what it is.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
in
is.
that corner,
I'm
you
going
go in
that
that
corner. Take
All
a
right,
time
I'm
out.
right.
I don't know. I just want him to answer the initial question that I asked
Oh, I'm sorry.
what
What
was
was
that?
that?
about like the hardest things for men to get over and women to get over when it comes to infidelity.
Oh, to infidelity?
That's where I went.
The hardest thing to get over is the same concept. Is the fact now there is a breach
You
of
know.
trust
You're good.
and security in this relationship.
Is that the same for
Yes.
both? Okay.
Yes, because it all comes down to trust. Like I can no longer trust you. So when you say you go somewhere, are you really going where you say you're going to go? Right? Because the number one thing that's important for women is trustworthiness, not security, because that comes after and that takes a while. Are you who you say you are? Do you do the things that you say you're going to do? So now, if I found out that you stepped out on this marriage or this relationship, are you who you say you are? Can I really trust you? And it's the same concept for men as well. Like, can I trust you? Because now there's no breach of trust. So what's actually needed is a conversation where the person that cheated must answer all of the questions that your partner have. Because we all create a narrative as to what happened and what's the cause of it, right? So the person that cheated needs to be honest about everything. But at the same time, the one that's asking the questions, there are certain questions that you can ask because that's just going to perpetuate the trauma, right? You don't ask if it was bigger or if things were better or any of that because that doesn't help. That's just going to make everything worse, right? And then once that has been reached and you've updated your narrative, now we go to the accountability. Why did you step out? What emotional need was not being met? And that's where the issue starts. Because now you have the person that cheated sharing, hey, I've been feeling unwanted. I've gotten no attention from you. And I've been missing that. And the other partner must take accountability.
But what if the problem was it was bigger? We got to know that. Because you can't say we can't ask
Still
certain
cheated.
questions. First
So
of all, if we're
does
gonna
that make you feel
discuss
better?
infidelity, you got me fucking up the word. If we're gonna discuss infidelity, like we might as well just put everything on the table. Why are any questions left out? I understand why you said like it doesn't help the conversation or it might just make things worse. But what if that's a part of the problem?